begin today with huge news that could change the direction of the Supreme Court for a generation of Americans.
Justice Anthony Kennedy will be retiring.
Abortion will be illegal in a significant part of the United States in 18 months.
When Supreme Court Justice Anthony Kennedy announced his retirement last summer, the anxiety set in immediately. Despite the fact that Roe is settled law and has been for nearly 46 years, I was also worried. But I felt that a lot of the early coverage missed a crucial point. Millions of U.S. women already live in what amounts to a post-Roe world. I wanted to try to show what it looks like on the ground for women who live in parts of the country where the right conferred by Roe has already been eroded. So I rented a Toyota minivan and headed off on a 3-state, 1,400-mile road trip through Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Mississippi, neighboring states that have each enacted some of the strictest abortion laws in the country. And they're surrounded by states that are also hostile to reproductive rights. In this large swath of the U.S., millions of women live with a legal right to abortion, but often without meaningful access to exercise it. Oklahoma is a pretty rural state, and not a particularly prosperous one. Women must travel long distances, even hundreds of miles, for in-state access. They face a 72-hour waiting period, a 20-week gestational ban, medically inaccurate informed consent materials, restrictions on access to medication abortion, a mandatory ultrasound law, and a ban on insurance coverage for abortion.
In the state of Oklahoma, we have, as of 2015, I know, we had more abortion restrictions than any other state in the country. There's been this narrative, not only in Oklahoma, but across the other states in the country in the South, of these legislators who will say, these abortion restrictions are to protect women's health, protect women's health, protect women's health, and that has been shown to be totally untrue. There is research that shows that the more abortion restrictions a state has, the lower health outcomes, positive health outcomes you have for women and children. So they're not looking out for women's health and well-being. They're on a crusade to stand in the way of access to safe, legal abortion care.
Fayetteville, Arkansas is roughly 2 hours east of Tulsa, in the Ozark Mountains. There's a Planned Parenthood clinic on the east side of town. It is one of only 3 abortion clinics in the state, and it only provides medication abortion, which is available up to the 10th week of pregnancy. Last year, a new law took effect, creating a de facto ban on medication abortion in the state. The law didn't ban the medication. Instead, it said that doctors could only provide it if they had admitting privileges at a hospital, something none of them had. It's an example of what is known as a trap law, a targeted restriction on abortion providers, and it's designed to make it impossible for them to operate.
I was working from home that day, and I got a call from one of our attorneys letting us know that that was what the ruling was, and that they're going to be working now, calling patients, canceling appointments. Some of them they weren't able to get a hold of, so they didn't find out until they actually arrived at the clinic that, I'm sorry, the state has now decided that you can't make this decision.
Planned Parenthood and Dr. Ho sued to block the measure. It was medically unnecessary, they argued, and would leave women across the state without access to care.
The law states that a medication abortion provider has to have a contract with another physician who has hospital admitting and gynecological privileges somewhere in Arkansas.
And the admitting privileges thing has been all the rage over the last number of years with any number of states. And it's really kind of silly and nonsensical. For a couple reasons, right?
First off, medication abortion is incredibly safe. Abortion in general is incredibly safe. It has a less than 1% complication rate, a greater than 99% safety rating. It's safer than taking an aspirin. It's safer than taking a Tylenol. It's safer than having your wisdom teeth taken out. The other things that make the the contracted physician requirement kind of unnecessary, medically unnecessary, is the fact that they're saying that this physician can be anywhere in Arkansas. I mean, we're here up in Fayetteville. If we had a patient who needed, who had a question about, if she could be experiencing a complication, we would instruct her to go to the nearest emergency room, because emergency room doctors are more than capable of taking care of a pregnant woman with bleeding. They do it every day.
The law was blocked by a federal judge, and the state vowed to appeal. But in late November, Planned Parenthood announced that it had found a doctor with privileges to contract with the clinic. That made the legal battle moot, at least for now. Still, even without the ban, women seeking care in Arkansas face other restrictions, among them a 48-hour waiting period, medically inaccurate informed consent materials, and restrictions on insurance coverage for abortion. During the 2.5-week period when Dr. Ho was unable to provide abortions, many patients would have to make the 200-mile journey to this clinic in Little Rock. It's the only one in the state that provides procedural, or surgical, abortion. And there, they would have been greeted by this scene.
Our Father, Lord in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
The anti-abortion movement has cloaked itself in religiosity. Protesters claiming that abortion offends God regularly descend on the Little Rock Clinic, as they do at clinics all across the country on a daily basis.
This place is a place of death. They charge money to kill babies.
One of the most extreme anti-abortion groups in the country was founded in Oklahoma, and they're active pretty much everywhere, including in Arkansas and Mississippi. They call themselves Abolish Human Abortion. Members disagree with the prevailing pro-life strategy of passing incremental restrictions on care. They want to eliminate legal access immediately and altogether. In Little Rock, I met Joyce Elliott, an Arkansas state senator, and one of the staunchest defenders of reproductive choice in the Capitol.
We have this right guaranteed by Roe v. Wade, and somebody passes a law, and you go, okay, but we can work around this. And then next thing you know, there's another one. The legislative creep over the years has been something truly profound to watch. And every time, and seriously, every time I think there is not possibly another law that anybody could have dreamed of, there is.
Mississippi is one of 7 states with only one abortion provider, and lawmakers have been relentless in their efforts to shut it down. The state is also one of 4 that has a trigger law on the books, meaning that if Roe v. Wade is overturned, abortion will immediately become illegal. There's also a 24-hour waiting period, a mandatory ultrasound law, and a mandate that medically inaccurate information on abortion be provided to each patient.
Did you know that the life in your womb, your child, is wonderfully made by God?
Last March, the state passed a law to ban abortion after 15 weeks. It's one of the strictest limits in the country and is well below the point of fetal viability, which is generally considered to start at around 24 weeks.
Clearly, I mean, what we all know is that 15 weeks, totally arbitrary, right?
Correct.
But in order to pass it, they wrote certain things into the law to justify it as the cutoff.
I just remember specifically that they were talking about that, you know, fetuses have teeth at, I think it was like 8 or 9 weeks or something. And, you know, that right there just blew me away, because it's like, not just the person who wrote the proposed law, but everybody who read it down there at the Capitol, everybody who read it knows that that's incorrect. I had 6 kids, 9 months. None of them had teeth when they came out. People are worried about the Supreme Court because of Kennedy leaving. Guess what? If it's overturned, if Roe v. Wade is overturned, the 15-week ban won't make a difference anyway.
The clinic was living in the shadow of this ban until November, when a federal judge issued a blistering opinion blocking it. He wrote that lawmakers' professed interest in women's health was pure gaslighting. He noted that state lawmakers were proud to challenge Roe, but chose not to lift a finger to address the state's crippling maternal mortality rate. Legislation like this, he wrote, is closer to the old Mississippi, the Mississippi bent on controlling women and minorities. The state has appealed the ruling. Women in these states have to travel long distances and spend a lot of money. They have to deal with harassment from protesters and paternalism from lawmakers, all just to access their legal right to determine their own fate. And now, that right could be taken away. It's a scary moment for women, especially in the South. Still, there are plenty of people, providers, politicians, activists, working hard, and they're determined to ensure this does not happen anywhere.